The dude that was going to polish my wheels faded out. I'm going to try to figure out what to do here. These things aren't in bad shape, but I'm going to have to hit them with some sort of sandpaper. This part has these little machining ridges on it, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. My curiosity got the best of me, so I just put the wheel to the Harbor Freight buffing wheel, and it came out pretty shiny. I may just hook up a real buffer, more powerful one, and see what result I get. Here's the Harbor Freight buffer. This thing bogs down real quick as soon as you put pressure on it. It works well for screws and stuff like that. This is Julian's buffer, and it works quite well, but it only turns at 1725 RPMs. I scored this one on Craigslist. This is a 1.5 horsepower, 3450 RPM buffer. Let's see if this thing spins. Pretty good. Let's try it out now. The wheel on the left has been sanded with 600 grit, wet sanded, all through here too. I don't know how I'm going to polish in there. This rim has not been sanded yet, or polished. This is 600 grit, wet sandpaper. I did the other wheel, the rear wheel, and this is as far as I'm taking it. I probably should have started with 400 grit or something, but I don't want to make this a career. That's it. Give it a little spin and do another section. And the same process for the spokes. Wet sanding, not making a career out of this. There's little machining grooves in this stuff, so it really needs, I don't know, maybe some 180 or 240, and then work your way up. I'm going to do the best I can just doing this. I did the other wheel. It's come out pretty good. There's a lot of areas that are a little bit uneven and splotchy if you look real close. But this is going to have to do. The rear wheel is sanded and polished. I may have to touch it up. If you look close, you'll find some splotchy stuff, especially in the on the ribs in there, on the spokes. This one is just sanded. I'm going to take it to the buffer now. Add a little bit of this and start buffing. Guess I should show you a spoke. These are not as fun. All that did was leave a bunch of the buffing compound on there, so I gotta wipe it off with some alcohol. Denatured alcohol. Looks like crap. I'm just gonna have to do it again. It has very deep tooling marks in here, so this may not polish up as good as that rear one did. I polished up this rear wheel, and it actually came out pretty good. I could live with it the way it is. There's a little bit of inconsistency, especially on these spokes, but all in all, it came out pretty good. Then I went to the front one to polish it up, and I thought this one was going to be easier. There was less splotchy oxidation stuff on this wheel, but for some weird reason I can't get the outer part of the rim to polish up as nice as that one, and there's no way these parts are going to polish up. The machine tooling marks you can hear. So I didn't want to make a career out of this, but I think it just became a career. I'm going to have to sand these things in order to get these center parts to polish up at all. Darn it. Those are pretty deep. It's going to take forever. This was my next attempt at getting those machining marks, tooling marks out of these wheels, and it works, but this thing is too big. So I've ordered another tool off of Amazon, and a 3-inch orbital air tool and a bunch of discs, different varying grits. We'll see how that works. That should get in there and do it. It's time to test this guy out. Got some major machining grooves here. This is 240 grit sandpaper. It's working. Sounds like it's slowing down already. I'll let the compressor catch up. I'm going to put some oil in it too, but it is working. I purposely left a ridgy section here. I've been at this for probably about an hour. I'm amazed how much air this little sander uses. Just about got it. This is with 240. I'm going to have to work my way up to 600 or so with this thing. That should do it for the 240 on both sides. I still have a little touch up to do in places like this. I've had to hand sand. I just take the worn out discs and wet them, even though they fall apart after a short bit, and sand this stuff out. It comes out pretty quick. Strangely, the next grit sanding disc they had in my little kit that I bought was 600, so I went from 240 to 600. I might try hitting these spokes on the buffer and see what it does. Still have to do something about the outside of this rim too. I'm gonna have to hand sand it, starting with I don't know what, 240 or something. The little DA sander did what it needed to do, but this plastic collar they have on the outside is literally disintegrating. So I may have to return this and get another one. This front wheel, I've now sanded the outer rim portion with 400, 600, 800, and 1000 grit wet sandpaper. The spokes I hit with the DA with 240, 600, 800, and 1000, and then wet sanded by hand with 1000 grit. Is this going to be good enough? I don't know. I have to take it to the buffer and see how it comes out. I'm going to be done with the polishing effort on the front wheel. Still have to do the back wheel. So the outer rim came out really nice, took it to the buffer, and now I've hand polished it with this probably 35-year-old semi-chrome polish. I could not get these things to polish up as shiny as the outer portion of the rim. They were treated the same. They were sanded to 1000 grit. I think it's a matter of not being able to get situated on the buffer quite so well and get as much pressure as I can get on this outer portion of the rim. So now I have to do the rear wheel. Yuck. It's the next day. I'm on to the rear wheel now, which I already had polished, but I'm going to take 240 and then 600 and then 800 and 1000 to all of these spokes on this wheel, and then to the perimeter 400, 600, 800, and 1000 wet sand, and I will wet sand in here with 1000. That's what I did to the front wheel. I'm hoping to get some consistency on this one so they both look the same. It's in the 30s right now. The sun is out, but it's supposed to go away in a little while, and it's going to be a little cooler feeling. I'm going to try to get this, at least the sanding portion done. The rear wheel is now DA sanded and then manually wet sanded to 1000 grit. Just need to go to the final step of the buffer to make it look like that one. Do see a little problem with the front wheel. Kind of never ends, right? I'm not going to sand and buff. I think if I walnut blast this right here and these spokes, it should look pretty good. Next up for the never-ending wheel project is I'm going to take some paint thinner and try to clean all this gold out. Clearly I didn't sandblast all the gold away. I'm going to paint over the existing gold on these wheels. Hopefully it'll come out. I have to decide if I'm going to use primer first or just paint gold over the gold. But I'll probably primer them first. It's got a couple of brushes, a lint-free cloth. I was going to tape where I buffed because I don't want to damage the buffed area doing this cleaning. Then I would have damaged the tape and had to retape for paint. I decided to just try to clean them without taping first. It's a big effort to put tape on these things. I think I'm done with this process. These were the weapons of choice here. With a little paint thinner, mineral spirits. I scrubbed the inside of these wheels, even inside there. And they're fairly clean, well, really clean. I think what I'm going to have to do now is bag these things. It's less than 50 degrees today. This is not painting weather at all. I'm going to have to bag them, put them away, and bring them out on a nice global warming day.